called Hour of Power, where you get your information from us. Every Saturday from 5 to 6, we're on Caribbean Buzz with my co-host, Mr. Glenn Rich, the Honorable Mayor of Suffolk Boulevard, the man that knows everything that's going on in Queens. Today I have a wonderful guest, Councilwoman Adrienne Adams.
Hello.
Welcome to our world.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes,
Thank
welcome.
you. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. Happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Wow, I feel so honored to be in your company.
Wow.
You have done so many great things for our community.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you, how long have you been on the city council?
I was elected in November 2017, so just about a year and a half now.
Okay.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Already,
a lot
right?
happened and
A lot.
lot you've been working on.
Yes.
Now tell me, when you was growing up, did you always want to get in politics?
Oh, no.
No?
No. Not when I was growing up, not when I was growing old, not when I was growing anything
No.
did I ever want to get into politics. I wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to be a singer.
Oh.
You know, as a child, I wanted to,
Wait,
I aspired
excuse
to
me.
be a...
Is a singer.
Is a singer.
Is
Okay.
is a singer.
Okay.
A singer. Accomplished
Th-
singer.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
That's what I actually started, when I started college, I started in music theory. That was my first major, music theory. And then when I started taking music theory, I realized that I didn't like music theory. And if this is what it took to get me to Juilliard, I was out of there. So I changed majors to psychology and I went on to get a degree in psychology at Spelman College.
That's awesome. Glenn.
So how long have you, sorry, you already answered that. What are the different committees that you're on?
Oh, sure.
'Cause I know you're on quite a few.
A lot. Yeah, I'm on a lot of committees. I am the chair of Landmarks, Public Siting, and Maritime Uses. So that's everything that's landmarked in the city of New York, all of the city property, and all of the waters in the entire city of New York. Anything that happens with any of those entities has to come through my committee first. I also sit on 6 additional committees. I sit on the Finance Committee, which is tremendously operational right about now in this
Yes,
great budget
with the
season.
budget season,
That's right,
sure.
that's right. I'm also on Civil Service and Labor. I'm on General Welfare. I'm on Land Use, Public Safety, and Rules, Privileges, and Elections.
Wow.
Yes.
Quite a
That's
bit.
awesome.
I stay really busy, and I get a tremendous amount of gratification, as a servant by serving on all of those committees.
What kind of legislation have you been able to work on since you've been at City Council?
Wow, quite a bit now
I
that I
know.
think about it. Just a little over a year. I was a part of a package that was called the Anti-Sexual Harassment in New York City Act.
Wow.
And in that package of bills, it had to go along with the Me Too movement. We all
Okay.
know what that's been about.
Yes.
Basically women speaking up and out about issues of sexual harassment that have gone on in their lives, in their workplaces, and in other spaces. So the New York City Council realized that we had to do something about it. And I have to say that, the leadership of my colleagues, the Men That Get It Committee, as we call them, and the Women's Caucus, we were able to pass significant legislation and a great package of bills. Mine was Intro 613, part of that bill, and it really it called on the Department of Citywide Administrative Services to conduct ongoing assessments of all citywide agencies to discover what the workplace risk factors would be as it relates to sexual harassment in the workplace.
Wow.
So that was my first piece of legislation, and I'm really, really proud of that. Very powerful piece of legislation, very powerful package.
It's something that was needed.
Oh yes, absolutely, to protect, not just protect women, but people don't talk about men being harassed
Right.
as
Oh,
well.
yes, they are.
That's true.
We have to speak about our brothers as well as we speak about our sisters. So that was my first. I've also been able to pass an interesting piece of legislation that had to do with the DOT, and we here in Queens know that. We have a significant issue when it comes to driving on our streets these days. Sometimes it's really, really impassable to get down streets that are two-way that should legitimately be one-way.
Right.
And what I wanted, to be perfectly honest, what I wanted in this bill was for DOT to take a look at all of our streets citywide and just give us a measurement. And I put in a specific measurement. If a street was this far in length, it would therefore be illegal for it to be two-way. So my legislation would then create a place for us to have legislatively on the books streets that were legitimately one-way or two-way only. All right, so the people of Queens specifically, we know that we have been lacking for parking.
Yes.
And because our streets are so narrow and we have, overly populated, densely populated areas now in our neighborhoods, people have cars, we drive. We don't necessarily take public transportation everywhere, but we have vehicles. So we need parking, we need our vehicles, hence we've got parking that is at critical juncture because we're at capacity for street parking right now.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us that are in our cars are losing our mirrors.
Okay, also, something I'm really concerned about with downtown Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
being that the concern about parking, we have a lot of traffic and we have hotels that are coming,
Yeah.
buildings being put up,
Mhm.
and as of right now, it's like a zoo. I'm
Mhm.
sorry to say, around Southern Boulevard.
Very busy.
And the congestion is very.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? you
As
think?
far as
As far as changing things, well, for parking, are there more parking spaces that's going to be developed, or is going to be included in the buildings?
yeah, for the most part, the buildings that are coming up right now, and well, let's speak about the buildings first, just to sidebar. The buildings that are coming, and Glenn can fortify this statement. They're affordable housing that is being built right now in the Jamaica core, the downtown Jamaica core, and surrounding areas. Something that we are in dire need of. That's the #1 request right now out of my office. It has been ever since I was elected. People don't have any place to live because New York, we're basically being priced out.
Well, what do you
Of places
call,
to live.
what do you say is affordable housing? Because last winter I went to one of the shelters on the Van Wyck Expressway, and I said to them, since the new buildings are being put up, are people going to have their own apartments? And she said they have not even been addressed. The people that's in the shelters to find affordable housing, and what type of affordable housing? Because, affordable housing could be, 800, 900, maybe 300 for somebody, depending on your income.
Correct.
So that's one of the questions I wanted to find out from you.
Yeah.
How affordable is affordable?
Well, you ask a really, really good question, Pauline. And your question is a little two-pronged because what I heard in the question was that #1 is a need for there to be appropriate programming in our shelters right now, because if someone is asking about affordable housing and what's going on, that means that there should be programming involved with that shelter and resources involved in that shelter to address those questions directly. And the big deal out of your question, of course, is affordable for who?
Exactly.
Right?
That's been the issue.
Affordable for who? And Glenn is our economic development guru. So I'm sure that he can answer this question as well. But in our area, we here in Southeast Queens, we are diverse in economy.
Yes.
We are diverse. We are everything from the low end of the spectrum to the upper middle spectrum. So affordable to whom becomes very relative when we take a look at who wants to move into the affordable housing, who is able to move into the affordable housing, and who is going to get to move into the affordable housing. So when we take a look at the spectrum of, AMI, we throw this term out all the time, area mean income.
Median income.
Area median income. It pertains to the salary of individuals and families, what those individuals and families are making. And according to that, that metric is where the term affordable housing comes from and relates to any particular neighborhood. So where a family of 4, the AMI may conceivably be $30,000, the AMI would be quote unquote measured to be affordable in that particular area for that particular income level. So it's a wide range, and it's a difficult question to answer because again, Southeast Queens is very diverse and we have diverse levels of income.
I also heard it was the highest.
Also one of the issue, well, yes,
Yeah.
we do have that, but part of the issue is that the AMI is utilized Manhattan prices and Westchester County, that's included in that. So it skews the number quite high because the AMI is for a family of 4 is 90,000. So that means that the 2 parents and the 2 children, the parents have to bring in 90,000. Now,
That's unrealistic.
Yeah. It is.
Well, that's why AMI should be geared toward the community, which is what
Correct.
Councilmember Adam just said. AMI should not be a general number that's for the whole area, but understand that it's also because the federal government is defining it. And so the federal government designs what areas are included in that income. And of course, the federal government is the one giving out the money and, to support the housing. So it's a very complex issue that goes across city, state, and federal are impacted by this AMI.
But we also have so many shelters that's in this area. There's a lot of shelters. Wouldn't it be better to have the affordable housing, I mean, more buildings coming up with affordable housing as opposed to building shelters, making people...
Absolutely. And for those of us that have, unapologetically been opposed to the number of shelters that have populated Southeast Queens for decades, I absolutely agree with you 1,000%. We have really been, and I hate to use this expression, but it's used all the time, we have been the dumping ground to be dumped on. For the borough, we bear the largest number of shelters in the entire borough of Queens, in Southeast Queens.
That's what I heard.
It's astonishing, and where we, of course, have always been the ones to look out for our most vulnerable population, we still need for everybody to adhere to their fair share across the board. And we've been a part of, for a really long time, holding other areas accountable to have their own fair share. And it's, as of late, recently, that's starting to happen now. It's happening very late in the game, but you're going to start to see in other areas of the borough, affordable housing, quote unquote, coming up, supportive housing coming up, because it has to happen. We're saturated. We've been saturated for a really long time. And, not for nothing, but again, we love and care. We always have been the ones to love and care for the most vulnerable population of this city. But we can't do it anymore. The borough of Queens is a very big borough, and everybody has to bear the weight.
It's a big melting pot.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful melting pot, by the way. It really is.
Actually, Community Board 12 has the most beds in
That's
the
right.
entire city.
That's right.
So of all
Really,
the community
Glenn?
boards,
I didn't know that.
that's correct. I think there's a community board in the Bronx that has the second highest number
Yes.
of beds. We have the highest number of beds, shelter beds, in the city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, in a way, it's good for the fact that at least that people are not
Well,
out on the street. They are in a shelter.
Here's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that we have them in hotels.
Yes.
They can't get the services that they need.
Yes.
You need social services, you need housing support, you need, a nutritionist, you need all of these things because you can't take care of a family with a microwave only.
Absolutely.
No.
Hotels were not meant for permanent residency. And especially for families, with children, as you're saying, Glenn, it's been an atrocity that this administration has saw fit to move families, children into hotels. And I call it, warehousing them into hotels. The other side of the coin is that we have been promised by the commissioner of DHS that will no longer be the priority or the policy for the city of New York, specifically for Southeast Queens, because he's recognized me for a number of years now and knows me very well and has taken, what I've said and other leaders in Queens, what we've said to heart out here in Southeast Queens, that enough is enough. He understands that.
Yeah.
So we are moving, and I've seen it over the past year or so at least. I've seen people in our district being moved out of hotels and into supportive housing.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I remember one call that came to my office last year, And a woman was calling because she'd actually been put up in a hotel for a while, and she was now being moved into supportive housing, into a room that was not a hotel, and she wasn't happy about it. So she says, well, I don't want to move out of the hotel. I don't want to move, into a room someplace else. And we had to explain to her, but we want you to. This is why. We need to see everybody coming out of hotels and being moved elsewhere, because the hotels were not designed for your housing purposes.
Right.
So she understood, she got it. I don't think she was that happy about it initially, but she did understand we've got to move out of these hotels, and it's happening.
Tell me, what role do you see women participating in the council?
Oh gosh, that is a great question. I love speaking about women in the council.
Yes, please do.
The role of women in the council is strength and balance. There are only 11 of us out of 51 council members. 11 women. We are 11 strong though. We're very vocal. We're very unified also. As a body of women in the Women's Caucus. All of us are members, of course, of the Women's Caucus of the Council. So that is the good part. The other part is that when you take a look at, and I keep saying this, when you take a look at the press conferences that the mayor holds, and you see just a sprinkling of women, in the press conferences, and you see us trying to jockey to at least be seen among our male counterparts. Sure. It's pretty funny. The first one that I attended last year, I'm looking around and, and people are coming, oh, you've got to move here so you'll be seen because, the guys are going to jump out and they're going to jump in front. Well, sure enough, I looked around and go, oh my gosh, what's going on? They don't care. They don't care. They want to be seen. Next week, the mayor is this high. They want to be seen too. So, it's like women, hey, they got to be seen for their constituents as well. But I say that and I still laugh about it. And now, having been in the council for over a year, I know how to maneuver myself. I know how to get in there. I know how to do those wedges and make my way, because as a woman, as a black woman, I must be seen for the benefit of the city and of my constituents that put me there. They have to know that I'm there and I'm standing there and delivering policy in their behalf as well. So I've kind of learned, but it is strength and balance that is needed. And I just want to encourage any women, any young ladies who are thinking about running for political office to please follow that. Follow whatever that inkling is in your heart, because you are needed in ways that you would never imagine. I never planned to do this, and we may get into the line of questioning, I'm not sure, but I never planned to do this, but it is so needed. Your expertise is needed. Your heart is needed. The way that you work is needed. Nobody else knows the heart of a woman except a woman, and the governing comes along with that heart. It's just something else that we bring to the table that only we can do.
Yeah, when I think about it, there are decisions that you can make that would affect women that I, as a man, would be clueless about. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to have that presence there. And I'm so glad that you guys are fortified and making it happen.
Well, pretty strong. Following that, do you consider yourself a role model for women and children?
I didn't think about it too much until I really started getting out there and noticing that people started saying that to me, that I was a role model.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing feeling. It is a tremendous honor to be considered a role model of another woman or someone's child. It's an amazing feeling. I only think or thought of myself as a role model to my own family, my children. Mm-hmm. But to think that, I've been gifted this honor and privilege to serve in order to be called someone's role model is just an amazing feeling. It's tremendously humbling for me, and I'm so grateful to be here.
Now, how do you balance the scale of career, family, friends?
It's tough. It's really tough. What helps is to have a very, very supportive family and a very, very loving team around you, people that really, really do care about you, care about your well-being, and people that are really there just to make sure that you're okay. I want to make sure that your health is okay, that, your heart is okay. How are you feeling? Is everything all right? So having that support system is tremendously vital. Balance is tough, but my family is in New York. My family is in South Carolina. My husband is amazing. We celebrate 30 years of marriage this coming August.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
So he's been an amazing partner in my life. We've known each other since second grade.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's an
Oh,
amazing.
that's
We'll talk
a
later
true
about that
support
story, but that's my biggest support system. Joseph J. Adams is the biggest support system in my life, and together we've raised 4 beautiful adults right now who have given us beautiful grandchildren. So FaceTime is a wonderful thing. So get FaceTime. If you can't be with the one you love the one you with back in the day. But FaceTime truly gives me an opportunity to love my loved ones that I can be with, through the means of social media and the like. So it's tough, but it's possible.
Let me ask you this: what kind of projects have you been responsible for funding?
Oh gosh, it's been a lot. Glenn, I'm so happy you asked me that. When I was campaigning, I promised my constituents of District 28 that I was going to get our funding back. I promised them that I was going to get our funding back, and that I was going to give participatory budgeting a shot. That we as a district were going to give participatory budgeting a shot. So I was able to accomplish the 2 top priorities that I ran on. So mission accomplished, sir. What I was able to fund so far, last year alone, I was able to fund 41 additional nonprofits who'd never been funded before. They'd never seen any funding.
That is huge.
At all.
That's huge.
Because
for those of you who don't know, most of the not-for-profits are serving different communities and doing different things to quality of life and so forth. And so it's important that they receive some of the funding. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing to be able to fund over $500,000 to 41 organizations that had never seen any funding at all. In addition to that, I was able to fund about $250,000 to our existing nonprofits as well, to continue supporting the services that they bring to District 28 as well. So that's been great. I was also able to provide over $8 million in capital for repairs in our schools, in our community, for the children that have been a priority for me for so long. So we've seen bathroom upgrades, we've seen auditorium upgrades, we've seen basketball courts, and we've seen after-school programs come in, cultural after-school programs come in, and funding for certain programs that had never been there before. It's been a fantastic. We've been able to do some upgrades to our parks as well, still ongoing with the help of the borough president, because our parks are also places that our seniors come as well, our children come as well. Everybody comes to the park. We've got to make sure that they're beautiful and safe for all of our constituents. So I've been able to do a lot. And just to top it off, we closed out participatory budgeting
Well, would you explain to our listeners what participatory budgeting is?
Absolutely. Participatory budgeting is a part of the democratic process by which the community gets to share or tell their elected official how they would like to spend $1 million. So although all of my colleagues don't participate in participatory budgeting, District 28 has never fully participated. This is the first time that we fully participated in this exercise. And it's where 11-year-olds or older are able to vote for the interests of their community, be it changes in their schools, changes in their infrastructure, transit changes, changing in housing, housing specs, lighting, security cameras, things like that. So I was actually able to not just by the voting process, and our folks came out to vote. They really came. We did better than we thought we were going to vote for the first time out. Out of 32 participating districts. District 28 was number 18 of 32 participating districts. That is incredible. So all of City Council is looking at our district and the success. Shout out to Budget Director Kate Mooney, my budget director. She did a fantastic job, first time doing this thing. And we ended up looking really, really great out there. We put a smile on a whole lot of children's faces because the children came out to vote their interest.
Yes, that makes them feel empowered.
Oh my gosh. During our voting week, and it was a really, really busy week for me, I saw that one of my staffers actually tweeted out a picture of children voting at Lefferts Library. I think it was PS 55. They had chosen to bring the children out to vote in participatory budgeting as a field exercise.
Excellent.
Can you imagine?
Oh, that's so
They
perfect.
brought elementary school teachers out polling.
How did the children, what was the expressions on the children's faces?
The smiles were from ear to ear, to see them, to know that they needed whatever it was, auditorium curtains, new seats in the auditorium, technology, laptops, whatever their interests were for specific schools that came out. But just to know that particular leadership in our schools were taking this so seriously that they wanted to introduce civic engagement to children.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I can't tell you that just the feeling, I got very teary when I saw the kids holding up the signs and their ballots, and I said, I can't believe this. This was actually used as a field trip.
Yeah, that's
A
perfect.
field trip.
Yeah.
So it's been a tremendous feeling to do this. It was a tremendous success, and we were able to really, really do some great things for the kids, as well as others as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're listening to Our World, Our Power, where your news reflects you and your community. If you need to reach us, you can reach us at 607-301-0962, which is on Caribbean Buzz. You can listen to us also on Spotify, iTunes, Caribbean Buzz, and iHeartRadio. And tune in. Yes. That's great.
Okay, good.
Did I cover that enough?
You got it all in there.
I got it all.
Adrienne,
Yeah.
I would like to, for you to explain the overall budgeting process now, because people have no idea what that's involved in. We've got, city council goes through a budget with the mayor's office, the state people go with the governor, and of course, the Congress and the Senate do their own thing as
Yes,
well.
can you break it down in simple form? Because even myself, I'm not that familiar with all the different.
It can be a little complex. It's taken me a while to try to understand all of it. As you said, the state has their own budget, also that they have to agree to along with the governor. The city has our own budget, which we have to agree with the mayor.
With the mayor.
So
right.
I'll just deal with
The city,
that,
yeah,
with the
Yeah,
city.
yes, of course.
So we have expense budget and we have capital budget, right? So our expense budget covers everything that it costs to run the city, our city agency costs, and everything else in between, our city agencies, the costs. So that's and our libraries, of course.
Right, yes.
We take a look at that on the expense budget side. So there are funds allocated, and New York City this year, the mayor has pronounced a $92 billion budget. Last year it was 89.2. So his budget has gone up. We'll get into that a little bit also. Give you some news surrounding that.
Okay, great.
And then we have the capital budget.
Okay.
It covers long-term investments for the city. Infrastructure, construction of public schools, street maintenance, which we know in Southeast Queens, we've been doing a lot of street maintenance lately.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely, particularly for flood abatement.
Yes.
The mayor, to his credit, has allocated billions that we will be seeing the fruits of that labor over the next 3 to 5 years or so through DDC and DEP and DOT and their collaboration. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, folks, so don't yell at me. This is all for our benefit, and we're getting sewer systems, and all of that is coming in to recreate our infrastructure because we really haven't had new infrastructure for so long. Also, capital projects give us construction of public libraries and new schools, and the revenue budget. It's basically our tax dollars, and everyone says, "So what are we doing with our tax dollars?" Well, that's revenue funding. Those are revenue dollars, and all of those things determine our budget as a city, and what we do with all of those funds really is up to us, the people, and the decisions are made through the mayor and the city council. Now, what goes on every year around this time that really shouldn't is called the budget dance, right? Where the mayor comes out with his preliminary budget, and then the city council, under the leadership of the BNT, the budget negotiating team, which I'm a member of on the city council, 20 or so of us, between 20 and 25 of us sit on that, and we come up with a response to the mayor's initial, budget.
Cut here, increase here,
Right,
that kind
right,
of thing.
exactly.
Jockeying around.
So over the past month or so, the mayor introduced his budget, and the New York City Council came out with our response, which we thought really did fortify a lot of spaces that were missing in the mayor's initial budget, quite frankly. We found a lot of things that just weren't there that we need as far as, the bread and butter of our city. We need money put into DOE, not taken out. We need money put into after-school programs, not taken away.
Yes.
We need money put into food programs, not taken away. We need money put into senior citizen needs, not taken away. Unfortunately, that's exactly what we got, what we saw. A lot of cuts coming through, through the initial plan, by Mayor de Blasio. And we came back with a response that we thought was great. We fortified our reserves once again, as we did last year. So we found money that the administration did not find. City Council found more reserves. Our finance team, who's tremendous. Hi, Latanya McKinney. You're Olivia Pope. We have a tremendous finance team on the City Council side. And so we found more money in reserves, millions. We found more money for programs and other things as well. We decided to do our own, since the mayor, and he had to do this, implement some cuts in city agencies, because we really do need to find some more money. And there are ways to do that. And the mayor put in what were called pegs, where city agencies were given directives to make certain cuts in agencies, be it personnel or other just spending, some cost-saving measures.
Mm-hmm.
We found our ways to do that as well on the BNT side at City Council as well, looking at some other things where we could save more money. And then we gave our response. This is where we can put more money here. This is where we can give you more reserves for the city as a whole. And this is where we can build up where we saw certain cuts that we could not very well, hold our heads up high with our constituency and say that we were proud of what he presented. All right. Unfortunately, what came back last week in his response was everything that the City Council put in as our response. Nothing showed up in his response. So what they did was, and I know I'm telling on it, okay, we're still working with this though, that's the good news. About $1 billion or so was taken and just put in other places, where we said this is where the money should go to make sure that New Yorkers are taken care of. Our wishes were totally disregarded in his answer. So, to be perfectly frank, we were outraged, we were disturbed, we were discouraged, we were disappointed, and we now have another battle this year, which we really didn't want to have. So it looks like we'll have a battle this year that was worse than last year. I really, really hope that we can come to terms. We have to come to terms for the people of the city of New York that we're here to serve. So starting Monday, we go back into budget hearings again with the Finance Committee. I'm a member of the Finance Committee, so we will be going back in the balance of the month of May. So if you look and if you follow us on the council channel, shout out to council channel.
Yes,
Yeah,
I follow. I've
If
seen
you never know where to find me,
Yes.
7 committees strong, you'll find me at work, at city council, on that council channel. So you will see me on that finance committee for the next month, for the rest of the month of May, questioning or part of the questioning process as a member of the finance committee in hearings with the city agencies and determining, exactly what they're doing on their end to write this budget, to make this budget right for the people of the city of New York. And not just, give us a little bit of a song and dance, because we don't like the budget dance on city council. We don't like it. The mayor promised we wouldn't do it, but we had to do it last year, and we will definitely have to do it again this year. But we're prepared. We are more than prepared to continue the fight, the good fight for a good budget for the people of New York. So we're going to stay in the fight.
Adrienne, what would you like to see happen in the next 5 years as far as your district is concerned?
As far as my district is concerned, I would like to see continued uplift and increase of quality of life. That's something that we spoke about a lot when I was chairing Community Board 12. It is of paramount importance to me that District 28 and really all of the districts in Southeast Queens are treated with parity and equity, just like every other community in the city of New York. And if you notice, in Black and brown communities, we have to fight for things that other communities don't have to fight for. And I've said it time and time again, other communities, when they come out and they ask for certain things, be it funding from the borough president and other places, they want nice lighting, they want nice aesthetics, they want flowers and, things like that. Beautification, exactly, Glenn, beautification. We have to fight to get potholes filled. We have to fight to have certain transit amenities, things that we've never had before in a transit desert that is still being ignored and neglected by all this time. A lot of us have to take 2 buses and a train to get to work.
That's true.
Which is outrageous. In a city that is now accommodating, and one of my colleagues says it best, subsidizing ferry riders. Coming from other parts of Queens and other places, $2.75 for the ferry. And we've just had an increase in MTA, we've had an increase on express buses, yet I don't see any ferries coming out of Far Rockaway, do you?
No.
I don't see any ferries coming, going to and from any communities of color, quite frankly. But certain communities that don't need to be subsidized continue to be subsidized now with the ferry system. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have it. I'm just saying that there should be equity.
They should pay for it.
They should pay for it. And where are our express buses going to Lower Manhattan, not just Midtown Manhattan? Where is our transit equity? Where is the equity when it comes to our bus lines really taking us all the way there? Instead of to a certain point and then stopping, and that's as far as we go.
Or not even going in certain
There you
areas,
go.
you have to go around.
There you go. Exactly right. So again, my hope, in the next 5 years is to lend to the cause of creating equality, equity, and a greater quality of life for District 28.
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask a very basic question for our listeners because a couple of things, but understanding this budget fight is very important. That's what is happening behind the scenes. That our city council members are fighting for what we need as a constituent, a citizen of this community that may be overlooked if they weren't there to fight.
That's right.
What would you say is the importance of voting?
Oh my gosh, Glenn, that's the magic question. Ring the bells, everybody.
Now, I also want to say, what's the question about voting? Is it important to vote?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, we don't
Does
vote.
it really count?
Whoever thinks that voting doesn't count, take a look at Washington, D.C. and number 45 with the orange hair sitting there right now, whose name we do not mention. If you think that your vote does not matter, ask yourselves how the Electoral College elected Donald Trump to be the 45th president, and Hillary Clinton, who won by the popular vote, was not elected president of the United States. And so my argument to that has always been, if you don't vote, you really have no right to complain about anything, because your vote is your voice. It sounds very cliche, but I tell you, politics and civic engagement is reflective in everything that we do. Every aspect of our lives is because of politics. So the voting process, which is very precious, which we know, which is very valued or should be valued to every citizen of this country. We take a look at choosing not to engage in that process. And then we sit there and we wonder, why does our community look like this? Why is so-and-so in office right now? Why, what I just spoke about, why do we have a transit desert in Queens? Why don't we look like all the rest of the communities, or other communities in the city of New York who, don't need as much as we? Why are we looking at decades of homeless shelters in Southeast Queens? It's because of voting. It's because of not voting. Voting reflects the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, the streets that we walk on, in our traffic lights, our stoplights, you name it. You name it. In how we respond to our pets, if we're pet lovers, where we can walk them, how we can walk them, how we drive our cars, if we drive our cars, where we park our cars, you name it. It's all politics, Glenn Greenwich. It's all politics. It's the mayor that you elect, and if you choose to sit out, if you choose not to do anything, we get even deeper when we take a look at the Senate of the United States of America right now, which is overwhelmingly Republican, and that's fine if you are a Republican, but take a look at what that reflects. This now reflects our justice system right now. The Supreme Court decisions that are coming down now that will reflect the lives of not only my grandchildren, but my great and great-great-grandchildren. Decisions that will be made next week and next month will reflect them. And it's all because of a lack of voting. All because certain people, and you know who you are, have chosen to sit out the voting process and chosen not to engage. I couldn't sleep at night. And anybody that tells me, any of my constituents, anyone else that tells me that you don't vote or you don't want to vote, you always get the same speech from me. But I ask you that if you don't vote, I'm not going to say don't say hi to me, but you'll still get that same speech over and over again whenever you say that. I just think that it's very, very disrespectful also to the tradition and the folks that died for. Yes, I know. I don't understand it.
And would you also emphasize the non-presidential elections and what it does to the local politics?
Sure. That is so important what you just said, because people think that, I'm just going to vote when it's time to vote in a president. Oh my gosh. The president does not affect your traffic lights. The president does not affect what we've been talking about for the past 45 minutes or so. The president has nothing to do with that. President has nothing to do with the number of shelters in Southeast Queens. President has nothing at all to do with affordable housing that goes up or doesn't go up. The president has nothing to do with what is considered AMI, how it's going to affect you and me and our neighbors. The president has nothing to do with any of those things, but I tell you who does. I do. Right. Your state representatives do. We are all responsible for you. And we take that responsibility very, very seriously, because as I keep saying, people say, "Oh, hi, council member." I'm not just. I'm your neighbor also. Somebody told me to stop doing that, because it's almost like saying that. Oh no, well, I didn't vote for you to be my neighbor. I voted for you to be my council member. So I'm like, but I am still your neighbor. But it affects us all, and it really, really impacted part of the reason why I ran for Senate and ran, subsequently for City Council. It's because this stuff affects me and I take it personally. So you have to vote in every election, folks. Your midterm elections, I dare say, are some of the most important and critical elections that we can undertake as a people, as a citizenry of the United States. We have to vote in every single election. That includes the elections coming up next month, now locally for DA. Whoever you want to vote for, you just make sure that you vote.
Okay. Now, what would you like to see your legacy be?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm still thinking about that, actually.
Okay.
I would love to see my legacy have to do with building upon education in the district and building upon making our educational system even better for our children in the district. Our children have been neglected. They've been marginalized. I hear a lot, and it's not necessarily the truth. That, our schools are terrible, and I take that personally.
Sure.
We have some great schools in our district. We have some fantastic students. We have excellent students who have gone on to excellent places, who continue to get scholarships. And as we go into this graduation season, they will be getting even more scholarships. And I'm looking forward to going out to graduations as I did last year and hearing these children speak and just seeing their flow and their rhythm, their demeanor, their manners, their parents who really do breathe such great life into them, their traditions also because of the diversity in our district. I'm looking forward to just leaving a legacy of greater education and the importance of education in District 28. Also, to realize how important it is to know language. We have a barrier right now in some communities because certain generations cannot speak English.
I know.
So, and it affects our children, in the school. So what do we do about that? We have to also work with our adults to show the importance. We know that the preservation of culture is of vital importance. That must happen. But on the other side of it, we must open our doors to teach English to our elders, to our seniors, to parents that really don't have a command on the English language. I think that should be a priority as well. So my legacy, I'm still putting it together, Pauline, but it's going to have something to do with education and excellence in our children and in their capacity for learning.
Let me ask you this question. Because you talked about people not speaking English as their first language. How would you speak to how important the census is in all of this that we're doing? Because it affects politics directly.
Yeah, it really does. Another great question, and as we move, from this participatory budgeting system and season and our budgeting season, we are coming into a tremendous opportunity for all of our communities across the city of New York to participate in Census 2020. Now, the census has to do with a tremendous amount of funding that is provided according to the numbers represented in each community, demographics and other places. So if you're not counted, then you are not funded as a community. So hypothetically speaking, we've got a community of 150,000. Let's say only 10,000 of 150,000 in any segment of that community is counted in the census. Then we will only be funded for 10,000 people. We will only get funding awards for 10,000 people when in essence we need funding for 150,000 or more. So it's important that everyone be counted. Do not be afraid. The information is confidential. Nobody's going to come to your house to come and take you away. We just need for you to be counted either on paper or digitally online. That's easy also, to just go online onto the website this time around and just make your voice be heard in the census.
I understand that this year they're not going to have all of the staff people that they had to actually go out. So it's going to be more digital dependent than it's been in years past. And I think that's going to be a negative impact for the people who aren't, online.
I'm not sure about that. I know that Employment opportunities continue to be available for workers, and if anybody needs work, they're certainly looking for people to come and work and help. So there's employment right now with Census 2020. Look it up, anybody that needs a job. But if that is the case, and I'm not sure that it is, that we are going to have to fight even harder and work even harder to get the message out there to our folks. We're going to have to go, well, the census folks, door to door anyway, but just
Well, one of the things I've been hearing is that we're going to have to get some training and some libraries and other places, public places, to be able to train people to get on the computer to do their thing. And so that may be what we as a community are going to have to do because it's such an important issue.
It is.
Because the danger of being undercounted is what Councilmember Adams just talked about. We won't get the services that are provided for us. That includes sanitation, that includes libraries, that includes, just about everything that has to do with the quality of life.
But you know something, Glenn? There's a lot of people that are not citizens, and they're afraid to come to the door and be counted because they are afraid that they'll be taken away.
We hear that a lot.
Yes,
we hear that a
big
lot.
problem in Queens. Because it's a melting pot of different cultures and languages and stuff like that. So people hide.
Yeah, it's going to be even more incumbent upon us to get that message out, though, that it's just not the case. And I think that for my part now, I've got quite a few organizations out there that have been speaking it up, intercultural organizations that have been speaking up to that, to that myth. That, if you're not a citizen, that, you're going to be flagged by ICE and all this stuff. But again, the information is completely confidential, and it's actually illegal to impart the information from the census. So I'm going to have boots on the ground, as they say, until Census 2020 is complete, to make sure that my constituents are educated in every corner of District 28, to make sure that folks know the importance of the census. Citizen or non-citizen, you must be counted. Another thing that we have seen across the city is also our NYCHA residents. We see a tremendous, underrepresentation of our NYCHA residents. So where I have 3 NYCHAs in my district, that we have to get that message also, that it's so important that our NYCHA residents know how that they be counted in the census, that it's critical, to the funding also that comes in for NYCHA as well.
We've got about 2 minutes left. If someone was interested in running for office, what guidelines what recommendations would you give them?
Oh, good question. You're speaking to one that never expected to run for political office ever. So my advice would be to really start to, first of all, know that it's something, if it's a passion that you have, whether or not it's an idea, be able to distinguish between the two. And then try to speak with someone that is actually doing the job that you aspire to do, so that the truth can be told behind this, because it's a lot of work. Some people see it as, it's a celebrity and it's glamorous. It is none of that at all. It's a lot of hard work. It's 24/7 work. It's good with the bad. It's making some people happy, and it's not being able to please all of the people all of the time, but being able to understand that even if you're not able to please everybody, that you're still going to fight for their interests regardless. So I would encourage you, if you're thinking about running for office, especially if you're a woman, come on, talk to me. We'll talk to me. I can tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly behind this wonderful privilege that it is to be a public servant.
Great.
Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It really
Thank
is
you.
our role, our power here with Lady Pauline and Mr. Glenn Birch, of Honorable Mayor of Southern Boulevard. I love to say that. Thank you very much for being on
pleasure.
And
Pleasure to be with you.
Councilmember Adams, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. given your commitment and your love for this community, and one of the hardest working council people that I know.
Yes, I'm honored just to sit next to you here. Can I touch you?
Oh my God. Well, thank you both. You're so kind. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome.
Ms.
Very
Moore.
welcome.
Take care. We'll see you next Saturday from 5 to 7 on Our World, Our Power. Thank you.